Well, the much anticipated Escape from Tarkov arena has finally arrived, and it is exactly as I expected it would be. A broken, jank, hot mess of a game mode that has many, many flaws, but is still really fun and has so much potential. This video isn't going to be so much about suggestions to make it better, solely because the game is so new and so many changes are already being made. I think 2 balancing changes were made this past week that I kind of want to let the dust settle at least just a little bit before I start contributing ideas of my own. So anyways, we're going to start with some of the major issues because everyone loves a pessimist. Solo is going to be rough. At least in the current game mode, grinding solo is gonna be pretty miserable. When you're solo queuing, sometimes you end up with a great team. Everyone is coordinated enough that communication isn't all that essential and you're able to have a really fun round. Sometimes you end up on a team with players who don't know their rights from left, and the AFK player in Spawn is an absolute classic. Another big issue with solo queuing is communication is very difficult. I've seen a lot of threads and a lot of forums where people aren't even aware that there is a team chat available. If you press J, you turn on your radio, and you can communicate with anyone on your team wherever they are on the map. There are a few issues with this. One, again, very few people seem to know it exists, and even fewer people choose to use it. I think they should add a tip in a loading screen somewhere that just says, press J to use the radio, so that, more people are aware of its existence. The other problem with it is it doesn't work after you are killed. You cannot communicate with your team after you die in arena. Now, I get this is more realistic, this is probably something that they would prefer to have, but the problem with this is it places you at a massive disadvantage against teams of 5 in a Discord. In a Discord, people are constantly communicating about where they are or where they were killed from. I think in order to make things just a little bit more fair to people who are queuing randomly, the radio needs to work even after you die. I think sacrificing a little bit of realism here just for a more fair game is the best way to go. This lack of communication is crippling. Communication in Tarkov Arena is extremely important because the only other way to identify friend from foe is with colored armbands. I don't have much problem with these armbands visually. They do an okay job if you see somebody. The problem comes in when someone whips around a blind corner, or you just barely notice somebody, or maybe you just see their head through a plane window. That's when it becomes a problem because A, if you only see their head, you can't see their armband. And if someone whips around the corner, you might not want to take the time to process, hey, teammate or enemy. All you know is potential danger right in front of me, pull the trigger. This results in a lot of team killing, or at least getting shot up by your teammates. Even with good communication, shooting up your teammates happens. So yeah, as a solo, this is going to be very frustrating. Then we have the thing that probably most people are complaining about, and that is balance. Balance is, as expected, frickin' all over the place. It's practically non-existent. Certain kits definitely feel better than other kits at their own tier level, but that's not even factoring in better kits at different tier levels. I thought when Arena was announced, I thought each kit was gonna have their own battle rating or something like that, and you could only fight people who had kits with a similar battle rating. This is not the case. Someone can have an Alton and you're stuck with a Saiga 9. It's rough. My very first match, I was on a team of people who all had starter kits. We went against people who had tier 4 armor, an MP5 with green tracer, and another guy who had tier 3 armor and an AK-102 with M856A1. Yeah, that round ended about exactly as you would expect it to. And then it was my turn. I had a better kit. I had an MP9N with AP 6.3, and I went against people with starter kits, and, well, yeah. it was kind of just sad. At some point, I felt like I was just cyberbullying people. I'm sure the balance will eventually get better, but for the time being, expect it to be terrible. Battle State is not great at balancing things so that everything feels fair. For example, the Stiletto kit has tier 4 armor, a tier 3 helmet, and a Mossberg 590 with a fair amount of mods attached to it, and AP 20 slugs. Yeah, this kit's absurd. It's been absolutely demolishing people in lower lobbies because it's a one-tap slug to the chest, and no one has armor that can beat it. And what did they do with this kit? They buffed it. They gave it another sight so that it was more viable on larger, more open maps. Huh? So yeah, for the time being, expect balance to just be in the gutter. It's not great. So if you're struggling as a solo and you're struggling against people with better gear than you, why don't you just grind for better kits? Well, if you win a match, you typically get anywhere from 6,500 to 7,500, sometimes pushing the 8,000 XP range if you do really, really well. And the first tier takes about 22,000 XP to unlock. Not so bad. Then the next takes about 54,000. Okay, a bit of a jump, but still not terrible. Then the third tier takes about 150,000, and the fourth tier takes about 300,000 XP. It just keeps increasing and becoming harder. Grinding out gear is a lengthy process, even if you consistently win. If you are queuing solo, you're gonna lose a lot. You only get about half the XP, so grinding out kits is going to take a lot longer. Add on top of the fact that you are going to be facing people who are slowly getting better gear faster than you, and you're in for a long run. And keep in mind, this is all just for one path on one tree. If you want to get better gear in a timely manner, you have to specialize. Enjoy using the same thing over and over and over again. Trying to grind each class differently is going to be a laborious process. You're gonna fall behind, and overall, it's just not gonna be a great time. I think this is a bit of a misstep solely because it means that once you start using one kit, you can't really use anything else, because once you start getting better, your rank starts increasing, you're gonna start matching against better players who are also gonna be focusing on one kit, so they'll have better gear. Now you can't really go back. You can't really try a different kit. You can't start over because you're gonna be facing people who have armor that you just cannot pen, you can't kill them, and ultimately it becomes impossible to grind out other paths, which, when you have this many available kits and it's this diverse, that just seems like a huge misstep to me. The bottom line is, if you are playing solo, you're gonna get shafted by Arena, and it's gonna be a rough time. I highly recommend you do not play this game solo. Even if you don't know people who play Arena consistently, there is now an official Escape from Tarkov Arena Discord server. I have found a lot of success queuing with people from there, and I highly recommend that you go check it out if you don't have anyone else to play with. It is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration. And the good thing is when you are 5-stacking with people, this game is incredibly fun. Seriously, 5-stacking in Arena has been some of the most fun I have had in not only just Escape from Tarkov, but in video games in general in a long time. If you are a person who loves Tarkov PvP but hates dealing with rats and cheaters and just a whole bunch of other Tarkov bullcrap, this mode is a godsend. My favorite part is that when I die in Arena because I either pushed way too aggressively or did something stupid or just tried to do something funny, I don't then have to go back to my stash, get another kit together, and then sit in a 7-minute loading screen just to get back to playing the game. Seriously, Arena has done nothing short of reviving my love for Tarkov PvP. Another thing that I don't think is being praised quite enough is the maps are quite good. Air Pit was my personal favorite. I felt it offered the most interesting combination of long-range sightlines as well as good flanking routes and a center area where the people who are good at close quarters can just really run in and start shooting the crap out of each other. I absolutely adored that map. Equator is the equivalent of a drunken bar fight but with firearms and is also just hilarious. Sawmill has its place as a more open map and is even quite fun to play with close quarters guns if you just rush properly. Bay is great except for the mystical porta potty of magic that gives you wall hacks if you stand in it correctly. I'm not sure if they've patched it yet. It doesn't seem like they have, so For now, I have a bit of a problem with that map, but otherwise, it's pretty solid. Bull is good. The towers on each side of the map are certainly a design choice. It can be quite annoying when someone just sits in there with a high-powered rifle and a scope. That being said, you can still get to the objectives and capture them without getting shot at, and hearing them sprint down to try to get to you, knowing damn well they won't reach you in time, is always funny. That is what you get, you camping bastard. All these maps are dynamic, interesting, and they don't feel like one side has an advantage over the other. And you switch off every single round, so even if one side did have an advantage, doesn't really matter that much. So what is my final verdict on Arena? Once again, Arena is exactly what I expected it would be. A jank, broken mode that is still quite fun. If you go into it trying to have fun rather than be hyper serious, you will probably have a good time. Messing around and appreciating the dumb stuff is the best way to experience a game like this when it's in its infancy. Is it kind of bullshit that I'm able to get a double nade kill off spawn? Yeah. Is it freaking hilarious every time it happens? Absolutely. Ultimately, it's all about perspective. I could focus on the fact that my team is getting stuffed by people who have better gear, or I could focus on the fact that I just had an insane sniper round. If you are going into Arena prioritizing your rank, or if you're one of those people who runs away and hides in order to preserve your KD, first of all, take a shower, and second of all, you probably won't enjoy this as much. I think the biggest priority for Battlestate right now should be to make it more fair for solo players. Maybe lower the cost of entry and increase the ruble reward at the end of the match for people who are queuing solo. Maybe even give them an XP bonus so that grinding isn't completely horrible. That is so far my biggest gripe with Arena. All the issues that I have mentioned are only magnified when you play solo, and you kind of go in with the expectation that you're not gonna have a good time. In a 5-stack, you can counter most of the other issues that I've had. Obviously, you can't do a whole lot about desync, but if people on the other team have better gear than you, then coordinate a different strategy to overcome that difference. Most often, it's possible to make up the partial discrepancies in gear quality if you just think differently or come up with a crazy strategy. Obviously, there are some exceptions. If the entire enemy team all has Altons, good luck, but in most other cases, you can figure something out. As a solo though, coordinating randoms to deal with better gear is nigh impossible. Ultimately, this game is in its infancy and should be treated as such. If you are able to embrace the chaos and accept that stupid stuff is gonna happen, you'll probably enjoy Arena. If you are looking for the next esports ready competitive shooter, you better keep looking, you're not gonna find it here. And that is my honest opinion on Escape from Tarkov Arena. I am genuinely having a lot of fun with it, and I don't even know if I'm going to go back to regular Tarkov for the wipe, but we'll see. Other than that, I am back in my house for winter break, so I apologize if the lighting is a bit weird on this one. I'm going to have to readjust and figure it out again. But other than that, just thank you so much for watching, especially all the way to the end. I really hope you enjoyed and found this video at least somewhat informative. And other than that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and have a good one.